I see goal setting as landing in three different camps: the moonshot goal, the linear path goal, and there is the exponential goal. The moonshot goal is the 10x thinking, where the purpose of the goal is to shift your reality. So you are living in one space with a humble goal, and you say, okay, what would 10x that goal be? And what sort of life would I be living if I did that? How would I have to shift myself in order to create that life? The linear thought process is, let's call them the medium level goals, where you go, okay, this is a reasonable goal. It's going to be a bit hard. Here are the steps required to do it. I'm going to go through those steps. The exponential process is like dollar cost averaging into the stock market, where you go, okay, I have no idea what I can achieve, but I know if I become more capable of achieving, then I will get more done over time. So what is the smallest possible thing that I can do? And how can I guarantee that I will do it so that I can create compound interest of competence over time? And so one looks like this, one looks like this, and one looks like that, where there's a point and a point. And they all serve different purposes, and they all work for different psychologies at different times. The moonshot thinking is amazing because it pushes you to do things that you've never done before. And it tends to spark creativity. When you think 10x, you tend to think about new possibilities. And if you need new possibilities, if you need to behave in a totally different way, and you have the capacity for it, that is really, really valuable. The downside of it is that if you look at that 10x goal and you suddenly feel small and insignificant and like everything is impossible, then that's super problematic. Because the primary thing that goals need to do is get you to take action. That's the whole purpose, is to get you to take action and get a result. And so if goals get you to take less action, then they are not useful goals. But if they get you to take more, then they are. And so when somebody thinks 10x, when it works, they think, oh my goodness, I not only am inspired to take more action, I'm inspired to take better action, right? It makes you do more and better and different, right? Because you're going, I need to do something totally unique in order to get 10x. But if it's intimidating in a way that it doesn't work for you, then it's not useful. Then the linear goal is the let's find the predictable path to success goal, right? You have a desire, I want to start a business this way, and you just ask ChatGPT or Google or look up a Hormozy video and say, what's the recipe? How do I follow that recipe? Okay, I will follow that recipe. I will make sure to have my morning routine down, and every day I will wake up, and after, 30 minutes of my morning routine or less, I will go accomplish this set of things. And I wrote this recipe. I got this recipe from a higher source than me. They know that it works. So if I just follow it every day in a series of linear steps, then I will get the result that I want. That is super useful. If you want predictability, if you respond well to consistency, and if you like to push yourself a little bit every day, because this is still hard, you have to, do the work. The certainty that comes from faith, right? Where you've mapped out the linear path, but you know that there's going to be a dip in your results because life is hard and you have to go through the valley of despair that you looked up on, Twitter and read an article about, and you know that you're going to have feelings of incompetence. So you go, it doesn't matter. I have to go on this linear path. I'm going to take the path despite my feelings, and so on and so forth. So that's the chug path. Super great. The place where it can be problematic is somebody says, okay, I'm going to do this despite my feelings, which means that they then are going to ignore signs that they are burning out, ignore signs that they didn't calculate correctly, right? They mapped out this linear path to success and they said, well, I just got to do this, whether I feel like it or not. They might be wrong. And so the big downside to linear straight line goal setting, where, I have to do X number of things within the next 6 months in order to achieve Y goal. The downside of that way of thinking is you might be wrong. And most people are much of the time. And so if all that you're doing is trying to chug, I just have to hit my metrics, I just have to hit my goals without ever checking in, without ever having any sort of creative thought that would come from 10x thinking, without having any levels of acceptance with yourself in this exponential type of approach that I'm about to describe, where you kind of like have days where you do less and it's okay, then you're really going to struggle. And so it has a place and it has a downside. The exponential path is you do what is possible every day, and you really, really commit hard to doing something that is less than your max, but more possible than all of the other methodologies. And so you put more energy into a smaller container to guarantee results. And the value of this is that if you are struggling psychologically or physically, then you will guarantee a win every day, and you will build confidence and competence because you will be giving yourself reps no matter what, right? Because in the 10x thinking, moonshot thinking, if your performance goes awry, you might just not do anything at all because it's too scary. In the linear thinking, your performance might go awry and you might not do anything because it's too hard. In the exponential idea of do small steps until they grow, the whole point is you only do what you can. And so success is always guaranteed in some capacity. And so that's the path that works if the other two feel like they're sort of beating you down a little bit. The downside of the exponential thinking is that it's slow, right? It's a more certain path where you find a way to make life work. You find a way to get a success regardless of your goal, with having the faith and the understanding that multiple successes build to success that you would like over time, even if it's not the one that you envisioned. And so which path do you pick? Usually you want to start with the one that gets you to take an action. And so if you set a linear goal and you push hard to get yourself to commit to these hard things, you say, okay, like I have to achieve this thing and I need X, Y, and Z on point every day. I have to make 10 sales calls. I have to take an ice bath, and I have to, do this one operational complexity every single day. And if I don't, then I did it wrong. That commitment is something that you are able to grind out with consistency, and it helps you stay stable, and you take more action than if you wouldn't have done that, then that's the path. If Moonshot gets you to be creative in a way that you're fired up and you go, wow, I really can do this. This is different, but I'm going to think differently and I'm going to create a new solution, and you're willing to go for it, then that's the path. And on the other hand, if you go, wow, man, when I know that something is possible, I'm just so willing to crush it, then okay, you should take the small steps exponential path. They're all valid. If you're trying to get to a more advanced level, you should be using all of them, right? You should be taking some time to sit down and say, if I were doing this 10x, what would it look like? You come up with an answer. And then you ask yourself the question, okay, what's the linear path to achieve that 10x thing that I came up with, right? Because with 10x thinking, you think about selling this product or service, and you think, how do I get 1,000 clients? And you think of one linear path that would result in you achieving that outcome. And that path is, X number of outreaches per day. But instead you think, okay, how do I get, 10,000 clients? Suddenly outreach is not an option and you need to swing bigger deals. And so you come up with this idea of, let me get deal flow from these other companies that would sell my product or service. Well, once you get that idea, you still have to come up with a linear pathway, right? And so you now have to say, okay, what's my linear goal to achieve this new idea? So the 10x thinking got you the new idea, but it's not necessarily going to get you to take action for some people. And so you think, okay, what are the linear steps? Well, okay, now I need X number of outreaches to companies instead of individuals. There's still a linear step here. And then you go, okay, well, what's the baby step that would get me there? Because this still looks cool, but I'm still not getting anything done. And so let me, instead of feeling like I have to do X number of outreaches to these intimidating companies that I've never reached out to, then let me instead make a call and see what happens. And then be proud of myself for the fact that I made a call. And then tomorrow you make another call. And then the next day you make 2. And the next day you make 4. And the next day you make 6. And the next day you make 12. And then you reassess and realize that you were calling all the wrong people in the first place. And you go back to calling 1 because you need a new system. And now you are a person who is both has the long line of the vision, and you're taking the baby steps and you're agile in adjusting along the way. And so that's the non-simple way to answer the question of what type of goal should I set. That's the more laid out answer of there's a bunch of methodologies. And if we let ourselves sit in each methodology, we can gain a little bit from each one. And it's useful to do that because everybody gets caught in one and helped by another. And you don't know which one's going to help you. But if you just try it on, if you give yourself a little bit of 10x thinking, you give yourself a little bit of linear process, and you give yourself a little bit of baby steps, then you have the chance to build the recipe that makes you take the most action.